Otto Wallin has been doing a lot of talking in the run up to this fight with Anthony Joshua. I'm starting to wonder whether he's actually doing a bit too much talking, whether he's starting to feel the pressure of the event because he's always wanted a big fight. He did fight Tyson Fury back in the days. That was the biggest fight he's been in to date, and he's been looking for another big fight since that time. This will be the biggest event he's been involved in, almost certainly the biggest payday. And when he fought Tyson Fury, Fury wasn't the star that he is now. Whereas Anthony Joshua, even though his star has fallen quite considerably, he has had his name in lights for many years, as we all know. So I'm just wondering whether all this talking from Otto Wallin is wishful thinking because he keeps banging on about Anthony Joshua's mindset. When he originally mentioned it, I was nodding in agreement with Otto Wallin. But because he keeps mentioning it over and over and over again in all these interviews, I'm wondering whether that's the right mentality and the right mindset to have going in there against AJ. Are you relying on a guy being mentally fragile? Or are you actually preparing for the best version of Anthony Joshua, for an AJ who's firing on all cylinders, who's 1,000,000,000% confident? Because that is what you should be doing. You should be preparing for a version of AJ that is better than ever. And if you do that, you put yourself in the best position to beat whatever version of AJ actually turns up. This is something David Haye often used to talk about back in the days, that he would prepare not for his opponent in their last performance or in recent performances if they weren't particularly great, for their opponent at their absolute peak, in their prime, firing on all cylinders, and not just that version, but a better version than that. That's what David Haye used to say. And from a psychological point of view, that's where he would get his motivation from, because he was somebody that would thrive on danger. Now, maybe Otto Wallin's a guy who doesn't thrive so much on danger. Maybe he wants to bring the danger level in his own mind of the opponent down a little bit, and that makes it easier for him to cope with. Is Otto Wallin trying to do that here? Does he feel like he needs to do that here? Does he feel as though if Anthony Joshua was at his best psychologically, technically, physically, he might be too much for him? Because I tell you what, I think Anthony Joshua is a better fighter than Otto Wallin. I think from a technical perspective, I'm not saying AJ's amazing technically, but I think he's a bit better than Wallin is overall. If you think about all of the things that Anthony Joshua can do, front foot, back foot, inside fighting, long range, short range. He's got a great lead left hook. He's got a good straight right hand. We all know about the uppercut, just ask Vladimir Klitschko. So AJ can do a lot of things. You know, he's got good balance. He is still a bit upright, and he does have certain flaws in his game. But overall, I would say AJ's a bit better technically than Otto Wallin. We know he's a bigger guy. He's a harder puncher. He's more experienced and so on. If AJ's mind is right, I see him beating Otto Wallin and doing so convincingly. I'm not saying he's going to blast through him in a couple of rounds because Otto Wallin has proven himself to be tough. But I would expect AJ to get a decisive victory if his mind is right. I think in order for Wallin to win, AJ's mind can't be right. AJ has to be hesitant. He has to second guess himself. That will leave the door open for Otto Wallin. And it isn't such a far-fetched thing because Anthony Joshua's mind hasn't been right, some would argue, since the first Andy Ruiz fight. He certainly has looked worried in every fight since. He looked worried in the Andy Ruiz rematch. He looked worried, to my eyes, in the Kubrat Pulev fight. He looked worried in both the Usyk fights, particularly the first one. He looked worried against Jermaine Franklin. He looked worried against Robert Helenius. He's just got this worried look on his face all of a sudden. If that Anthony Joshua also shows up on Saturday against Otto Wallin, Wallin's got a real chance. You can have all the ability in the world. You can have more ability than your opponent. But if your confidence is sufficiently low, that can actually help the opponent to compensate for their slight lack compared to your ability. So that's my take on it. I am kind of curious as to why Wallin feels the need to constantly bang on about AJ's psychology. Is he trying to get under AJ's skin? Is he trying to give himself confidence? Does he think he needs a mentally weak AJ in order to be able to beat him? Or is there nothing too deep to read into here? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below.